One continuous story, no bullet points, no headings, American names, YouTube-friendly tone. The hotel room was quieter than I expected. Not the peaceful kind of quiet, but the heavy kind, the kind that presses against your chest and makes every thought louder than it should be. I stood near the window, staring at the city lights below, wondering how my life had led me to this moment, alone in a hotel room with my father-in-law, about to do something I never imagined I would. My name is Emily Carter, and until that night, I believed I understood right and wrong clearly. I believed family lines were firm, that boundaries were unbreakable, and that loyalty always pointed in one direction. I was wrong. My father-in-law, Richard Thompson, sat at the small table near the bed, his jacket folded neatly beside him, his phone face down as if it might explode with secrets at any moment. Richard was a respected businessman, admired by many, feared by a few, and misunderstood by almost everyone, including me. I married his son, Daniel, 5 years earlier. Daniel was kind, hardworking, and emotionally distant in a way I never fully knew how to fix. We loved each other, but over time, love became routine, and routine became silence. When Daniel accepted a long-term project overseas, I told myself the distance would make us stronger. Instead, it revealed cracks I had been ignoring for years. The call from Richard came unexpectedly. "I need to talk to you," he said. His voice was calm, but something beneath it felt urgent. "Not at home. Somewhere private." I suggested a cafe. He refused. "A hotel," he said. Neutral ground. That should have been my first warning. Richard had always kept me at arm's length. Polite, respectful, but never warm. So when he asked me to meet him alone, my instincts told me something serious was happening. The hotel wasn't fancy, but it was discreet. The kind business travelers used when they didn't want to be remembered. When I knocked on the door, I almost turned around and left. But curiosity, and a sense of responsibility I couldn't explain, kept me there. Inside the room, Richard looked older than usual. Not weaker, just tired in a way power couldn't hide. "I'll get straight to it," he said after a long silence. "Daniel is in trouble." My heart dropped. "What kind of trouble?" I asked. He hesitated, then pushed a folder across the table. Inside were documents, emails, contracts, things I didn't fully understand at first, but enough to know they weren't clean. "Daniel doesn't know," Richard said quietly. "And I need to keep it that way." I looked at him, disbelief rising. "You're asking me to hide something from my husband." "I'm asking you to help me protect my son." That was the moment everything changed. Over the next hour, Richard explained everything. A business deal gone wrong. Partners who turned dishonest. A mistake that could destroy Daniel's career and reputation if exposed. Richard had tried to fix it himself, but the situation had grown beyond his control. "And where do I fit into this?" I asked. "You're the only one he trusts completely," Richard said. "And the only one I can trust to do this with me." Do this. Those words echoed in my mind. What he meant was simple, yet terrifying. We needed to confront the people responsible, gather proof, and correct the situation quietly before it reached Daniel, or the authorities. It wasn't illegal, exactly. But it wasn't clean either. "We'll be crossing a line," I said. Richard nodded. "I know." That night, in that hotel room, my father-in-law and I did it. We made the decision. We chose secrecy over honesty. Protection over transparency. Family over rules. Over the next few weeks, we worked together closely. Too closely. Late calls. Encrypted messages. Meetings in places where no one would recognize us. I learned a side of Richard the First had never seen before: strategic, vulnerable, and deeply afraid of failing his son. And he learned things about me too. My doubts. My frustrations with Daniel. My fear that my marriage was slowly slipping away. Nothing inappropriate happened. Not once. But the emotional weight of our shared secret bonded us in a way that felt dangerous. I hated myself for it. Every time Daniel called from overseas, smiling and hopeful, guilt twisted inside me. I wanted to tell him everything. But Richard always reminded me of what was at stake. If this comes out, he said, Daniel loses everything. So I stayed silent. The night it all nearly collapsed, we were back in the same hotel. The same room. The same heavy quiet. The deal we were trying to fix had taken a turn. One of the partners was threatening exposure unless Richard paid a price that went far beyond money. We can't do this anymore, I said, pacing the room. This is destroying me. Richard looked at me, his voice steady but broken. Then help me finish it. That was the moment I realized how deep we had gone. There was no turning back without consequences. Together, we confronted the truth. We gathered evidence, forced a settlement, and shut the door on the people who thought they could destroy our family. When it was over, there was no celebration. Just exhaustion. I never wanted to put you in this position, Richard said. I know, I replied. But we did it anyway. A month later, Daniel returned home. The crisis was over. His career intact. His future secure. But I wasn't the same woman he had left behind. I had crossed a line I could never uncross, not physically, not morally in the way people might assume, but emotionally and ethically. I had chosen secrecy over honesty, and that choice changed me. One evening, I finally told Daniel part of the truth. Not everything, but enough. I helped your father fix a serious problem, I said. I should have told you sooner. Daniel was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded. Thank you for protecting me, he said. His forgiveness hurt more than anger would have. As for Richard and me, we returned to our original distance. Polite. Respectful. Silent about what happened. But every time I pass a hotel, every time I hear a door click shut behind me, I remember that room. That decision. That moment when my father-in-law and I did it, not something forbidden, but something irreversible. And I learned a truth I'll carry forever. Sometimes, the most dangerous lines we cross aren't physical at all. They're the ones drawn inside our hearts, where loyalty, fear, and love collide, and nothing is ever simple again.